thinking and just show you a few ways or images quickly.
Is it being used? No.
No. So some of the projects we might do. So this is a project in a big in a greenhouse, and this was a desire to get more people being able to talk about climate change issues that were affecting them in a very rural context. But some of the same people were just coming forward to have that discussion. How do you have a wider conversation? So this was quite a forward-thinking environment agency who commissioned artists. And this is this project on the left. I'm not going to speak about every project. And we gave a group of people a diary, like about 10 different small villages, to keep a diary about what was happening over a month. And then we created an installation in a greenhouse, and using that information, and some other local people were in that, and we were able to talk about the weather in climate change senses, you know, what's happening, and about what's happening to the crops and the food and the weather and people's observation, and then take people on a forward scenario. And this took place in a disused greenhouse, so it was also quite a powerful metaphor. And as a result of that, a group of new people who hadn't ever been involved before agreed to become part of this focus group with the Environment Agency to be able to talk about their land. So it was like from a place of being and reflecting came the possibility for people to take action, rather than just going, who's going to volunteer to be on a committee to talk about climate change in your village? Actually, loads of people are not going to do that. But from this place of thinking, no, this is about the future, and this is about me, people took steps. These are some work we did with young people who'd never actually been to the sea, because they were living in quite a town, even though 10 minutes away is the sea, they just don't go there. And so we did some wild parkour, which was about young people in a more urban context, seeing how might you experience the natural concept. It's this edge again. Quite a lot of the work we do is to go mobile, so that we don't expect people to come to us. You know, I think often people kind of expect people to come to you, and for me it's a bit about how can I as an artist go to where people are. This project on the left was a project we did in Liverpool, which was connecting the most kind of extreme edge parts of Liverpool, which were in this between urban rural really, and we had a mobile, and there used to be mobile shops that used to link there, and they don't happen anymore, and we took over that idea of a mobile space that linked community to community over 8 weeks, 2 months. We'd go round to the same place in the same spot, collecting stories and memories and stopping into school playgrounds. And then the following year we were able to go back. This was part of Liverpool Capital of Culture project on the left. Then we were able to go back and we created a performance about people's lives. This is an old milk float that we use. It's got a cooker out the back of it. This is in a big city, but again we link it to the edges of the city, to the more rural context. This is a lot talking about food and sustainability. And then this I often have in the back of my car. This is like a mobile living room. This was consulting a lot of people about aging in their town, working with a whole provider about how is it to age, because where I live is 30 years ahead of where the rest of the England is going to be in terms of the number of older people, so it's an issue. Another type of project in terms of this bridging the divides is I've become a grandmother a few years ago, and I linked together groups of grandmothers in 3 towns, one very urban sort of town, one more rural, and another one quite more like a seaside town. And there's a little tourist route. If you're a grandparent, you can go on the train to one town, and you can go on a boat, and you can go on a bus. But often people never stop. So grandparents are they do this route and they think they know this place because it's a tourist route. And I thought, I bet you, okay, it's a grandparent thing, so I'm going to try and invite grandmothers in each of those towns to meet together. We met over 6 months, went to each other's town, and then we created a performance about aging, about being a grandmother, about women, but we toured to those places, and every time we met we'd eat together, and some really strong friendships grew up. We do a lot of walking projects where we invite people from across the town, this was in the past, to go and tell their story to each other as another method. And one of the last methods of how do you involve people is that we take over disused spaces. I know quite a few other people have on this. This top right one was a huge empty shop, which we've done quite a lot of. And the bottom one was a house that we took over. This was on a housing estate, but there was right again on the edge, where it felt like the more rural history of this town. Then there had been big tower blocks had kind of been built up when it had become more urbanised. But the more rural aspect of this, people were frightened to go there because it had been taken over, they felt, by drug dealers, by sex workers, by lots of things in this place, literally where they were living. And we did a project, this very challenging area, where I invited people to take me on a walk. 40 people volunteered, and lots of people were like, nobody's going to do that, it's too dangerous to go there, somebody's shot in that house the other day, you can't go there. And for me, there's something about, just because I stood in the street and said, I'm a stranger, I'm really interested, would you take me on a walk around this place to somewhere? And 40 people agreed, and a lot of where they took me was to places where they hadn't been for a very long time, but because I was a stranger, they felt they could go there. And then we documented it and took over a house and put their stories in the house and invited those people